to Iron Fortress Game 1 of our final series of Group E. Who is going to be joining Intense to advance on from Group E into the round of 16 to get those guaranteed OSC points and to be one step closer to that round of 8 money payout?
I see what you did there.
At any rate, in the bottom left corner, not distracting us from the game, he's also not... I actually misread that. Anyways, one step ahead, the Giant Gnome. I was looking at Kiwi Kaki's name, and I was like, he's not Kiwi Kaki. And then I was like, oh, he's also not the right race.
But his opponent spawning up here at the top right-hand corner of the map. We have the blue Protoss player. We got official pronunciation lessons from him in the lobby. It is Blysk.
Wow, that
I had to think about it. I had to think about it. I was like, wait, am I about to pronounce this correctly? It's a very difficult name to pronounce, actually. Especially when you've been saying it wrong so many times, but my god,
it's Cyber,
look at this. It's not just a 10 pool, he's pulling up the lings, and he's not sending out a drone scale, he's not giving any indications that normally a normal 10 pool would be, or have, of, there's gonna be this big pressure. There's no early drone scout that might kind of set off some alarms. It's just Zerglings being pulled up until he figures out where his opponent is, and then he's gonna move across the map with speed. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if these Zerglings end up hiding the top side of this base just to be extra sneaky. But actually, I don't think that would do anything because I'm pretty sure the probe would scout out that there was no expansion and that there was a gas geyser. So I take that back, but my ingenuity is going to come in handy one day. It's just not today.
That's true. If the Protoss player is going to take such a scouting pattern that he doesn't actually see if there would be a natural, and so he'll assume that there is a natural, and somehow the Protoss would have to mind game himself. Blysk, by the way, representing my insanity and is not Kiwi Kaki, although he is going to be doing his best to confuse us. So the Lings are actually pulled in the back of the main, about as far away from that probe scout as they can get. Now they're going to be rushing forward.
Speed.
Yep, they run right past that probe, and immediately, Blysk is like, oh, we have a problem, Houston. His Nexus is just now going to be finishing up, but he needs to wall in his main.
Great reaction. This is actually a really, really good reaction. He's going to immediately try and get out one of those sentries. He is going to leave a probe over there, and this is very, very important because he's going to just have it ready to build a pylon at that the base ramp in case these Zerglings cause a lot of problems, and they are going to cause problems, but the sentry will be out soon. Much of we're going to be able to work away on these Zerglings. I'm pretty sure this Nexus will not survive, but it's a question of will these Zerglings get into the main base.
Unfortunately, Photon overcharged a bit too far away with just 30 energy remaining, or about 25 at this point, as that sentry going to be working away at those Lings, saving the pylon with the force field, just kind of delaying those Lings from actually getting into the base. And now the Ling's going to be starting to work away on those gateways, which are just now going to be powered up. There's the Nexus. It does fall, and these Lings have pretty much been exhausted, but now the ones from the natural are coming up.
These wall-ins from Blysk is actually amazing. This is really, really impressive. Look at this. As soon as this pylon goes down, I was going to say that he could have just built a gateway over there, and I think he would have been an almost complete wall-up, but he might not even need to do that, as, look at this, he holds. There's more Zerglings streaming across the map, so this isn't over, and it's very important to know that Blysk doesn't know this just yet. He's going to cancel a lot of these buildings. Oh, this is going to be a little bit painful because I'm pretty sure the pylon is going to be very vulnerable. But no, look, the sentries are actually out in pretty decent numbers. He's going to have enough energy for another force field or two. And I think this is going to be very difficult for a Giant Gnome to make this work. Blysk doing a great job with this.
The hatchery just starting past the 7-minute mark for the Giant Gnome. He may not be one step ahead in this game, as +1 is going to be starting, because, you know what, Blysk is like, I gotta do something. I'm sitting on this one base tech. He's a bit supply blocked due to all of the pylons that he ended up losing, but he's almost ready to move on down and secure himself a natural. And, I mean, he has enough sentries, so if he can just get that extra bit of security, he's going to be in just fine of a position.
Twilight Council coming down over here for Blysk now. I want to note he doesn't have that many extra units right now. I honestly think that if he had not gotten supply blocked earlier on from having canceled some of those pylons during the kind of craziness of the defense, He may have even just gone for a big one-base attack and tried to end the game right there, but no, he's going to be going for the expansion. He's going to be getting up the Twilight Council, going for, it looks like to be a follow-up two-base blink attack, but, oh, actually, wait, I wonder, do you think that there's a possibility he could try and just cancel that Nexus? Could this just be a fake out?
That, so, it's possible. Like, right? I mean, he let in the Zergling, so he knows that he's got the Scout. He doesn't, of course, know where the Overlords are positioned, but he can assume that his opponent would be knowing that that Nexus is there, and it's possible he just tries to end the game right here, right now. I mean, he's going to be hitting right about the time that +1 will be added on, and it's going to be a little while before the Roaches are actually coming out.
Yeah, there's also the opposite possibility where it's actually not the Nexus that's the fake out, it's this push that's a fake out, because he has the Mothership Core. He can easily recall and still have enough energy for a Photon Overcharge if he ends up needing it. This could be really, really scary, but it's very important to think about what has the Giant Gnome been up to. He's been making a lot of Zerglings, so he should be prepared for this. We're going to have to see a recall over here.
There's a couple of Zealots mixed in here, and if they get good positioning, the force field's going to be saving them. This is still a healthy number of Lings. It's not an overwhelming number of Lings, with 28 of them being out on the map. They have enough to definitely shut down sentries, but as long as the force fields are on time and the Zealots get good positioning, I guess the Lings are just going to be going for the counterattack. The Roaches, 7 of them on the production tab, that's what Blysk has to worry about. Oh, the force fields, do they happen? He's got time to react. There we go.
Oh, he gets force fielded outside of that. That's actually very, very unfortunate. He should still be able to hold on over here, and I want to note behind this, he is, or I should say at the front of this, he is going to be ready to warp in more Stalkers back home, but
they get in, they snipe both of the sentries. They're now on top of the Zealots, and of course the Zealots trapping the last Lings against the force field, so they'll be able to clean this up, but exactly. Oh, wow, that almost went very, very bad.
I think that it could have, it almost could have been really, really bad, but he still has enough units that if he warps a couple Stalkers, I mean, this is not an overwhelming number of Roaches. With some good force fields, he may still be able to take this engagement, but he's got to be careful with those sentries. He's got to force those Roaches away.
The Roaches on top of the sentries, but they're not quite doing the damage due to the Zealots tanking for the sentries, and now that the Stalkers are here to add in that DPS, that ranged DPS, they push the Roaches away. 8 Lings on the production tab. This is a pitiful army that now stands in the way. Well, okay, now that the Roaches are being added on, it's a bit more of a strong army, but still, with Warpins coming in for Blysk, sentries, assuming the force fields are good, it's still going to be very difficult to deal with this. And as you mentioned, that Mothership Core has been sitting on 200 energy for quite some time. He can recall at any moment's notice.
Yeah, I think at this point he doesn't really want to recall unless he just ends up in a really, really terrible engagement. Because, let's be honest, at this point, Blysk has no follow-up tech. It's Blink Stalkers with +2 weapons, which is awesome. And he can still use recall if he, again, gets into a bad situation, recall out, mass in a couple more units, and then go for this again. But really, he wants to make this happen right here, right now.
First force field's going down, trapping out a couple of those Roaches. +2 attack, as you mentioned, going to be extremely important in this attack. The follow-up is, of course, Spire. That's where the cash is going for the Giant Gnome, but he still has to wait quite some time before the Hope of Mutalisks is out. There's a time warp on a number of these Roaches. Roaches already pretty darn slow, going to be slowed down even more as they try to move around, and the Queen's getting targeted down. Lings on the production tab, but it's only 10 being added on, and there's still a couple of GG, a couple of Zealots. Station for game number 2 of this best of 3. This is the final series of the day, and it kicks off with the man who's presently up 1-0 after that crazy Iron Fortress game. The green Protoss player representing my insanity, this is Blysk.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom side of the same map. It is going to be the blue Zerg player, the Giant Gnome, one step ahead.
Who is either...
right now, he's one step behind. Well, I guess he's one step ahead on the scouting.
Right? I mean, he's either going for the most aggressive, cheese scout ever, or, as we can see there, he's proxy hatching.
That hatch is really, really strange decision. He's kind of closer to the ramp, and I think this might be to get a spine crawler in range of the ramp to break down any wall-ins. But at the same time, I almost wonder, is that benefit outweighed by placing it farther from the mineral patch?
Okay.
You can mine from that base if you just place it closer to the mineral patch.
Hold up.
And still just use one creep tumor to get over the ramp.
Hold up. I've figured this out. It's the double mind game. So he places it there so that it's guaranteed to be scouted, and then he totally just, like, triple hatches behind it and goes super eco. That's not actually what he was
guaranteed.
doing.
Yeah,
no.
It's not guaranteed.
I was trying to make a joke, but
no shenaniganry here, man. There's enough shenanigans in this game.
All right, we'll go into serious mode, as it was going to be a forge fast expand, but then he scouted that hatchery and he was like, okay, maybe I'll do forge gateway and then try to just hold this nexus behind it. But of course it's Vonnie, so you got that nice small wall off, nice small ramp rather.
All right, so Queen
Very
being
weird.
produced at this proxy hatchery, which again makes me think that he could have just planted down a creep tumor, but you know. I'm sure the GiantGnome has done this more times than I have, which would be exactly at least one time. So
this is the one
time. See how this works out. Okay, so he's got it's very important that he has this Overlord here, and that he is able to get that high ground vision. But he needs to maybe reposition it a little bit closer to. Well, actually, this is a weird situation. Do you want to try and take out the photon cannons with multiple spine crawlers, or do you want to just go for the pylon?
Zealot going to be stepping on down, getting the first shots off on that creep tumor as it gets planted, because, hey, you know what? Any damage you do in this situation is better than no damage at all. Spinecrawler number 1 finished up, and we'll be seeing if GiantGnome is going to be kind of channeling the power of Jaedong with Spinecrawler Micro on Vonnie Research Station, because this is going to be very weird. Static D, Static D.
I don't know how much I like how this is playing out right now for GiantGnome, because you have to remember, Vonnie Research Station means that Blysk can just take that natural expansion, and he's okay. I mean, the only thing about that natural expansion that does kind of suck for Blysk is that he doesn't really feel comfortable, and I think it's pretty fair, he doesn't feel comfortable probing up right now. He's trying to save up his minerals for photon cannons, because this is a really, really weird push-in, but at the same time, it's going to be really difficult for GiantGnome to make a lot happen over here.
Stalker going to be stepping back before taking too much damage. These photon cannons on the right side are having a difficult time actually being established, and unfortunately for Blysk, he doesn't have that perfect micro.
Yeah, Spinecrawler, though, going to be going down to the photon cannon. Oh, actually, great transfuse going down. He's out of transfuses now, though. He's going to have another transfuse in 6-7 seconds.
Nope, it won't even matter because the Ling's going to be pushing up here, and of course that one force field ramp being very beneficial for Blysk in this situation. Zealot steps down, does that extra damage, cleans up one of the queens, and of course now photon cannons with the range poking away at that Zerg army.
And we're at the point now where Blysk is feeling comfortable. He's starting to probe up. He's starting to get up a robotic facility, start cleaning up some of that creep. Of course, the Observer going to be very handy for that. But even in Immortal, just to take out some of these spine crawlers, just to make it more difficult. Let's say, best case, GiantGnome gets some sort of units past all of these photon cannons, makes something happen over there. There's actually enough energy for a photon overcharge. This is going to be really, really difficult to break into.
Does the GiantGnome actually need to poke into anything, or can he just kind of contain his opponent and then double gold base behind it? What is this? So, is the only situation where this works is if Blysk just like does nothing for 20 minutes? Is that the only way this wins?
This is super cute, and I guess it's not the worst decision in the world, because I mean, you think about it, how many photon cannons has Blysk actually built? How committed to defense is he right now? But at the same time, Blysk is a really top-level player. He has sentries. He knows that one of the most important things in these weird games is to get scouting information, and I'm anticipating that Blysk is going to use some of the sentry energy at some point in the next couple of minutes to use a hallucinating scout. He's going to see what his opponent is doing, and when he sees that there's no lair tech, that there's nothing really happening back in the main base of GiantGnome, he's got to be thinking, okay, wait a second, did you take the gold expansions? Like, that's got to be something that goes through his mind.
Well, the Phoenix moving out. It will actually scout the gold, so he will know about one of the golds. He won't know about the second gold, though. At least not just yet. He's going to scout the natural as well and be sure that there's nothing too fancy going on there. And he's now into the main base, so he's going to see, all right, you don't really have any tech because the tech is still that spawning pool. So he's going to know pretty much everything, but not quite.
Yeah, this may throw Blysk for a little bit of a loop, but I mean, the Immortals are now out, and with these Immortals, he should have very little trouble busting down these Spine Crawlers. With a couple of good Force Fields, he can keep those Zerglings away and clean this up. I mean, if the Force Fields weren't enough, the 5 Photon Cannons protecting the Immortals should be enough.
It still can be turned into a mistake by Blysk, but thus far it's not going to be those force fields going down, trying to block off potential reinforcements. But Immortals taking a fair bit of damage. There's the Transfuses going down. One Immortal will fall.
Wow.
The second one, you know, it's just standing there.
This is proving to be more difficult than I thought it would be, huh? And I think Blysk is thinking the same. I think he was thinking, like, okay, I got my 2 Immortals, should be set. Loading them up into a Warp Prism, interesting choice. Looks like he wants to just go harass the either the gold expansion or just the main base. Either way should be a good thing to do with how many Warp Gates he's going to be finishing up right now, but there is that concern that, as you were saying, there's double gold expansion. Blysk isn't quite aware that there's the double gold up.
So, Hydras, to follow this up, might actually just be the perfect choice. I'm trying to think through this, and Hydras, they might actually just be the perfect choice in this situation. Double Evo Chamber as well, and whoa, no, the Warp Prism actually turns around. If he doesn't see this Hydra Den, that could be a little bit annoying. He's going to probably assume that there's something, but he doesn't necessarily know that it's a Hydra Den. I don't know. What does Blysk even do?
Well, this is a weird situation. Well, +1 weapons is finished up on these Zealots, so they're going to be absolutely shred any Zerglings that are here for the defense. So this gold expansion is complete forfeit. And with the drones, okay, this is one of those moments where how closely is Blysk paying attention? The drones didn't retreat back to the main base. They retreated up into the left. Yeah. Is that a tell for Blysk that there's another base, or does he just think that those drones are retreating up to the proxy hatchery?
Or taking a weird route back to the main. Either way, 12 Hydras are about to pop. They are spread out a little bit, and Ling's going to be going for a fantastic surround on these Zealots, but they, again, +1 Zealots going to be targeting down through these Lings. The majority of the Lings will end up falling. A second wave of Zealots being warped in on the high ground to deal with the Hydras, and actually he's going to start tearing through. Now, reinforcements for the Giant Gnome getting cut off at the pass, but goodbye one of the sentries. Can Giant Gnome actually hold this attack? If the Hydras could get up, he would.
Yeah, and there's another Force Field left over. He misses the Force Field just barely. Gonna let 2 of these Hydras up, and I don't know if that's gonna be enough to take out these Zealots in time for the Lair, though. Lair looks like it's gonna most likely end up falling. This is getting really close.
Oh, it barely survives. The Sentry doesn't have the DPS, and the Zealots being eliminated, so I don't know that Giant Gnome has bought enough time, but he's bought quite a... I'm actually not sure, because there's a potential for the Colossi count to grow and for Blinkstalkers to be well utilized in defense against the Hydras, but there's also a lot of ways where Blysk, if he missteps into this Hydra-Ling force, he could totally just die.
And it's important to note that Blysk doesn't know about that other gold expansion in the center of the map, so he might also have a misread on the situation. He might decide to get a bit more aggressive than he can, but looking at his unit composition, I still feel like he has a decent enough force as long as he has some solid force fields, and I mean, he does have a lot of Sentry energy available. I think he can still take this.
He's going to be stepping forward, and no real force fields being thrown down. It's the recall instead. He takes a fair bit of latent damage. And he scouts the base, though, so he does know that much. As you mentioned, he's down to just the 1 Colossi, and Thermal Lance is about to be done, so that'll be nice, but he steps down. I don't know that he can take this fight. He has to be careful. If he can get a nice spread, he should be all right.
He doesn't have any Does he have a couple? Okay, he does have a full energy sentry, so he can lay out a couple of these force fields, and they're going to be helpful in keeping some of those queens back. Colossus micros up to the high ground, and it looks like that's going to be enough.
+2 attack is pretty darn potent as Blysk crushes through the 2-0 in this decider match. He will advance alongside of Intense into the round of 16 of ASL Challenger League Season 5.
Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to support the ASL by hitting the button now.